Hello and welcome to episode 20,
20.
of The Slime. 20, that's quite a lot, it feels like. But yeah, we're going to get into episode 20. I'm pretty happy we're here. Thanks to everybody sticking around and listening so far. It's another little milestone. I guess 25 is more of a milestone, and we'll celebrate that too. But this is episode 20.
We gotta have like a party for our 50th episode.
Yeah, something. Yeah, well, one day. Oh my God.
Or our 100th.
That's a long way away. But today is episode 20, so we'll take this little win while we can.
Yeah, let's do it.
And we're going to be talking about adult animation this week, something that is near and dear to our hearts, and I'm sure a lot of you. It's kind of when you were a kid, it was like the entertainment equivalent of like the cool kid who introduced you to all this adult stuff before you were supposed to.
When we're kids, cartoons is a big comfort for us. You know, every day you watch your cartoon that entertains you, makes you feel safe. And then you kind of get to a point where you get too old to enjoy those cartoons when they did a lot for you. Like those kiddie cartoons did a lot for you. So then you graduate to adult cartoons, and there's a whole catalog of amazing, great adult cartoons. The kiddie cartoons just prepare you for the good stuff.
Well, they're a totally different world. I mean, it's as far as the depth they have, obviously, and what they can cover in their range. I mean, I guess it's not limited on like a setting and characters and plot to an extent, but it's definitely the themes and more in the deeper content of what they can cover. I mean, if you want to go back to the start of cartoons for me, it would be like binging Teletoon Retro in the morning, which was a channel here in Canada.
Channel.
Yeah, you're in Canada to anybody outside of Canada, but most of you are in Canada, so you probably remember. And yeah, like most Saturday mornings, just binge that all morning. And when you're a kid, you're getting up at like, I mean, at least me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm weird, like 7, 8
You did
o'clock
get up a
in the
lot
morning.
earlier than me growing up.
Yeah.
Catching these cartoons.
So I don't know. I felt like that was part of the tradition. So because they'd start playing cartoons at like 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I was a kid, I was crazy enough to even get up then but that was very rare. Most of the time it's like 7, 8, and you would just they would play cartoons till like 11 in the morning or noon, and you just caught so much great child's cartoons.
And you're kind of like rewarded for the earlier you woke up, because you would, if you woke up an hour earlier than usual, you discover a new cartoon that's always on earlier.
And I'm risking a tangent here, but I remember in particular, we used to play that Wii game. Well, not a Wii game, but Superhero Squad, and that we loved. And that had a TV show, and the only time to ever catch that, it felt like, was at like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the less popular shows aired earlier in the morning.
Yeah, so that was kind of a tradition. And I mean, Saturday morning cartoons is like the classic trope. No, it doesn't really exist
So
anymore.
nostalgic.
But
Yeah.
we kind of caught the last bit of it. But anyway, so I almost look at those early cartoons that I watched as sort of a different thing to the adult cartoons.
Oh, absolutely.
And even as a kid, I don't think I really associated them as the same thing. And I never those kids' cartoons, I looked at them as like, oh, those are fun cartoons for kids like me. Whereas, we'll get to talking to some of the more the deeper ones, but like starting off with Family Guy, that just felt like something that was just your parents didn't want you to watch. That I remember being told not to watch. So it was just a whole other experience watching it. It's something that you can't really recreate anymore as an adult.
When I was a kid, like, I knew that like Family Guy wasn't for me, and I knew that time would come, and I just wasn't there yet. So I got to enjoy that younger stuff before I got to that age. Once I like became the age to freely watch whatever the hell I wanted, I didn't jump immediately to Family Guy. You kind of like, you kind of gravitate towards, you find your footing. So what was probably, I want to ask you this question, but I also wondering if we should jump into just our top 3.
We can start off at the beginning, and I think it's good to recount some memories to kind of build it.
Okay.
I mean, if we're talking like the first adult cartoon,
Yeah, what was your first adult cartoon?
I think I remember being interested in The Simpsons because my mom said it was
Yeah.
bad and like it wasn't good
Yeah.
for me to watch. Which The Simpsons is pretty tamed. If
It
tame if you go
is.
back and watch it now,
Yeah.
but I mean, I guess for the '90s it was pretty risque. So I
Yeah.
remember we used to go to South America, and I have family there, and they'd have these bootleg DVD markets, right? You get all these DVDs, and back then a lot of them weren't dubbed, so I
Oh,
just
really?
used to buy like bootleg Simpsons
That's
DVDs,
cool.
and I must have had like 7 seasons of
That's a
it
cool memory.
for like cheap, and I would watch them on trips mostly, but I remember like I feel like my parents thought the show was dumb, but they realized that it's not like the worst thing ever.
Most people think they're not that clever, but these shows are pretty genius.
Yeah, and so they let me watch it at a certain age, and so that's probably like an early experience. But I think if you want to go to like the core memory for most people in our generation, and we would have caught the end of it if you're talking late 2000s, like early 2010s, when you'd stay up late at night on Saturday as a kid, like you'd be up late
Yeah.
watching TV, everybody's in bed in the house, and you got the lights off,
Yeah.
and you're watching, and suddenly the channel switches to playing these adult cartoons.
Yeah.
Robot Chicken, I remember in particular, and that's an
I remember
experience.
catching Robot Chicken, Star Wars.
Those are still some of the best experiences I've had watching anything.
Yeah.
Period. It's you're so focused on it because all the lights are off, and
Yeah.
it's so intriguing, and it's almost kind of creepy because they used to play weird bumpers, and you'd have the warning before
Yeah.
they would come on,
And you're looking over your shoulder to see if mom or dad is catching you watching.
yeah, and you felt like it was something you weren't supposed to see, which I guess it was. So that's just something that I really look back on and would love to experience again. But
It could be
never will.
jarring as a kid to go from like Bugs Bunny to Robot Chicken at night. It's so alien
Mm-hmm.
to you and so gritty, and I could see why it would unsettle kids. Like Robot Chicken isn't scary or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it's just uncharted grounds for young kids when they first start watching that stuff.
And in like the very early days, is like you don't get the jokes. You don't really know what
Yeah.
you're watching. You're more
Yeah.
just watching it out of curiosity. Like I remember watching certain things and thinking they were like a bit funny, and then I would repeat them because they were more adult humor. But like you don't really get a lot of it goes over your head. The references,
Yeah.
especially with Robot Chicken. But you would catch like anything and everything late at night as far as adult cartoons. And I mean, if we want to go into like our favorites, I think I want to
Let's do
start
it.
off at like a pivotal one for me, one that really the first one that I really got into deeply, and I think for the 2000s generation is kind of our Simpsons. Even though really from a cleverness standpoint, it's really nowhere near as good.
Simpsons was at a high point in the early 2000s.
Yeah, but
late
I'm thinking,
2000s.
but for my number 3, I'm gonna go with Family Guy, and
Okay.
it's a show that's fallen really far, but I think it deserves to be at number 3 for its early seasons. I think what it means to our generation, I think just Family Guy compilations online,
Yeah.
and repeating jokes to people is Family Guy was a meme generator because of the cutaways,
exactly.
right?
It's
so
huge on social media
it
now.
fit in, perfectly for our time. And I think if you grew up in the 2000s, Family Guy is way more of an impact than The
Yeah.
Simpsons ever did. It's
Family Guy was something that I didn't get to watch growing up, but now that I watch it when I'm older, like Family Guy does whatever the hell they want. And there's some other shows on like my top 3 and probably yours that also do whatever they want, but Family Guy's just different.
and well, Family
you
Guy's
know?
just doing anything possible to make you laugh.
Family Guy will have like 3
In 20
minutes
minutes.
of like dead air.
Yeah.
Just to get a joke across.
Just to get a laugh.
Just to prove that they can.
The plot does not matter. So in that way, it's a lower quality than a lot of these other entries that we'll mention.
And Family Guy is the king of like inside jokes.
Oh, of course, it's the best.
Yeah.
And just quoted lines and I mean giggity giggity, right?
Yeah.
Like even that alone, or Peter's laugh is even just such an iconic pop culture phrase or imitation that people do. So I think for that legacy, it should really be honored. And and that being said, I just love like even when it starts to get bad, I can hang on till about like
Yeah.
season 10, season 12. Now I would say it's pretty much unwatchable. I can't really
Well,
watch it
you've
anymore.
gotten what you want out of it.
Yeah, but
you know?
but I feel like even the seasons where it gets bad, I never went to Family Guy for a really creative plot. I just
Yeah.
went to laugh at some stupid jokes, and I think they still do a very good job at doing that.
Yeah.
Pretty far into the show, but definitely the last like 7 to 5 years, maybe even more. It's pretty like I don't laugh once anymore, but that shouldn't destroy the legacy of the early show. And I just think it fit into. I think it was so good at fitting into the incoming internet culture at the time. It's perfectly set up for it.
And it's like thriving now.
Even
like,
today.
the memory of Family Guy's thriving now because of its online presence, its presence on social media.
And The Simpsons just doesn't have that really in the same way.
But they're similar and they're compared. But like they'll be compared to death.
Yeah,
Simpsons
but
and Family
I mean, even
Guy.
we shouldn't discount The Simpsons has steamed hams, which is like a massive meme.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't know. There's just something about, especially Family Guy's joke style, that fits in more with current humor than the Simpsons does.
It has like awkward humor type of thing.
Yeah, just more. I'd say more random humor.
Yeah.
Like nonsensical. Yeah. Right? Like humor today is very weird, and like you think
you're
of
laughing because like it's so absurd and you're caught so off guard.
Yeah, like you think of a meme in like 2010. It's like Cadno has cheeseburger, right? Very simple.
Yeah.
Now it's like a picture of a burger with a purple filter over it and it says like yum or something like that.
People talking about how their humor is broken now.
Exactly. And I feel like while Family Guy didn't go that far, it was kind of moving in that direction and predicted how things were going to kind of become. So I think it's a good
top 3 choice.
Iconic.
It's a good top 3.
But because of the decline, I got to put it at number 3.
My number 3 is something a bit more recent that I probably got into when I was in high school. And that's BoJack Horseman. BoJack Horseman is just a show that it's more about like the plot. It's not your typical I'm gonna just catch an episode today and I'm gonna catch this one, kind of like how Simpsons, Family Guy, you can just pick up any episode whenever you want. BoJack Horseman isn't like that, and that was really new to me for cartoons. Super mature. It's like got drugs and gore and swearing, and it's a big play on Hollywood, on like modern day Hollywood. It's super self-aware, and it has a great cast too. So I've been a fan of BoJack Horseman for a while, and it's 6 seasons, and it sticks the landing, and it gets deep. And if you're a young adult going through life, you will connect a lot with the show. Yeah, and that's why I hold it close in my heart. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've had a show where you've had a connection like that, but growing up in high school, it was a comfort show to me to just throw on Netflix or anticipate what's going to happen next because the plot goes through each season.
Yeah, I love BoJack Horseman.
I feel like Will Arnett was born to play a character like that.
Of course, it's perfect for him, and it kind of fits into his kind of thing because he was a celebrity who he never really got to like the same mega level and was able to sustain. So I bet he can relate to a lot of what BoJack.
BoJack Horseman is about a washed-up celebrity. Yeah, essentially.
Oh, it's a show that deserves even more respect than it gets. I'm watching it now and paying attention a bit more than I did the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it the first time, but I think now I get even more.
It won't necessarily make you laugh a lot.
No, it's kind of a different thing.
It is, and that's why I was initially drawn to it. But BoJack Horseman is a great one you could catch on Netflix. It's an exclusive to Netflix, so it will always be on there.
Mm-hmm. So I mean,
what's your number 2?
My number 2. See, I'm having a hard time with it because part of me wants to pick. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go with it. This is another show that's gone in the decline, and it just gets a lot of cringe when you mention it. But just for season 1 of this show,
let's not discount it because a lot of great shows get ruined by the end.
Yeah,
don't discount what they were.
But season 1 in particular of the show, I think, is just perfect episode after perfect episode. And it's
Can I guess?
Yeah, it's Rick and Morty. If you were going to guess that, right? I think season 1 of Rick and Morty is probably my second favorite.
For that reason, cartoon. I've watched only season 1 of Rick and Morty, and it was enough for me.
That's all you really need.
And I liked it. It's a great show. It's a great modern age show. Like, it's a show that suits the 20 teens.
2010s.
The 2010s. It's a good show, and it fits the times.
Yeah, it's and it just shows the expanse of what you can do with animation. Like, they're just in an imagination playground, right? I mean, some of the stuff that shows thought of, like the Meeseeks episode, if you want
pretty
to go to
clever.
season 1, is pretty brilliant and an interesting concept, and is it just fairly unique and was nothing like I'd never seen at the time, and it creates a quotable line that can be memed, which
Yeah.
fits into the 21st century humor.
This show took over the world. I don't know what year.
It started off slow. It was a slow burn.
That whole Szechuan sauce thing
That's coming.
was probably at its peak popularity.
That was at the end of high school, wasn't it? Something like
I
that.
think so.
They-
So probably like 2017 or 18.
It burnt bright, for a little while there, but it really has fallen off in popularity.
The
But it was a
fans
slow burn.
were. It was weird seeing these fans in public obsess over this show, and I think that killed it pretty quickly.
Yeah. It started in 2013, like at the end of 2013,
Oh, really?
and I got into it in between. So like season 2, I think, was about to come out,
Okay.
and like
That's a good time to get
yeah.
into
And
it.
a friend told me about it, and I think I don't remember how I watched it. It was on some weird site. I was like, let me just
Yeah.
give this weird random show a chance, and ended up loving it. And like season 2 is great as well. Season 3 is a bit iffy, and I haven't really kept up with it, to be honest. So I guess I'm not a real fan. But I just think that first season is unbelievable and just classic episode after classic episode. And I think the jokes that stick out, I think, hold up better than stuff that would come in the later seasons.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to go to season 2, I think it's in season 2, like where they have a giant head coming to destroy their planet, and it's a singing competition.
Yeah.
Who can come up with the best original song to save their planet? Like that to me is the beauty of adult cartoons. It's one of the, especially in today's business, one of the few like big corporate entertainment. I don't know, I guess entities that has almost like no limits
Yeah.
on what you can do.
So I haven't. I've just watched the first season, and I'm probably not gonna watch the rest. But I was talking to my uncle a couple weeks ago, and he watches this show, and he really loves it and enjoys it. And he was telling me about one of the episodes he just caught, and they drop a lightsaber face down, and it just falls through the earth. And they're like trying to go around the planet to catch it when it comes out. That's the type of shit that they do. And they go off on tangents a lot. And that's something they probably took from Family Guy, but they reinvent it.
Yeah.
And it's more, they do a lot of humor where it's stuff you've probably thought about and wondered. So when they acknowledge that in the show, it makes for pretty clever humor.
And and to me it does. To me it's like why I would put it over, even like personally, BoJack Horseman and Family Guy.
Yeah.
Is because it takes a lot of what those shows are doing and just is able to do both. Rick and Morty gets deep very subtly. You don't see it as much in season 1, from what I remember. You see it a bit. It's definitely there. And it's able to do that kind of random humor, but it doesn't rely on cutaways like Family Guy does. And I think it has strong plot, really well developed characters. But it's like to each their own, right? Depends what you're looking for.
I think everybody can watch the first season and understand why it's liked, but you'll know by the end of the first season if it's something you'll want to continue or not.
Yeah, and I almost don't want to reveal too many episodes from season 1 or season 2, because it's just if you haven't seen it yet, like you're really missing out.
It's great stuff, and it's like it feels new and refreshing when compared strictly to like Simpsons and Family Guy. They definitely set themselves apart.
But it's what's my one problem with like Rick and Morty and Family Guy is they're so and BoJack Horseman, I guess, is nihilist too. Like, but I'd say he's more trying to get somewhere to a better life.
Yeah.
Those shows like Family Guy and
sad.
Rick and Morty,
it gets sad, right? Yeah.
Family Guy and Rick and Morty is almost like
Simpsons
moral
too.
compass.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like I find that can wear on me sometimes if I watch the show too long. I need a more
like
positive
when you
outlook.
watch a lot of Simpsons, and you're like, Homer is a shitty fucking dad, a shitty husband. So once you start to realize that, it's like maybe it's time to move on to another show.
Yeah. So you got a number 2 though?
My number 2 is, I wanted to put this at number 1 because man, I don't even know what to say because this show is huge and iconic, and it's still putting out great, funny, relevant episodes. But I'm gonna save my number one spot for something that hits home. My number two is South Park.
Great.
South Park is a show that I did not watch until I was old enough to watch it, and I knew it was probably some of the worst of the worst. But there's probably, I think 25, 27, they're in the 20s when South Park seasons.
Oh, yeah, they've been around since almost, I think, as long as Family Guy.
I've caught at least 10 to 15 seasons of South Park. I've definitely caught all the best episodes of South Park. And South Park is up there with Family Guy when it comes to like inside jokes and whatnot. Killing off Kenny every couple episodes. Them specifically being able to joke about whatever they want and get away with it, not be crucified. Many people have tried to take down South Park before, but they're untouchable. They almost get a pass.
Make fun of everyone, right?
Everyone and everything is made fun of, so you can't get upset at them for making fun of these people because they've also made fun of these people. They make fun of themselves, they make fun of other cartoons and other writers. So South Park hits close to home for me. Do you have any good South Park memories or thoughts? Or
South Park might have my favorite like voice work out of all the ones you mentioned. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm discounting all the brilliant voice work of all the other shows we've done. I think in certain ways they might be like technically better performances than the South Park ones, but because the South Park episodes are put together very quickly. But I think as far as just making me laugh, the voices alone are just hilarious.
Cartman.
Like Cartman's voice.
I think it's Stan's dad, Randy.
Yeah, like that guy.
Randy's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, Cartman could read a love poem and it's like hilarious.
Yeah. I like South Park because an episode will just be about a character who's obsessed with a new thing. And that whole episode will just be them obsessed with that new thing. Like there's just one episode where they're all completely obsessed with World of Warcraft. That's one of the biggest most iconic episodes. There's an episode where Randy just becomes obsessed with smoking weed and stuff like that. So there's one where they're obsessed with role playing and they're all ninjas and they're playing with real weapons. So you can only imagine what happens in those types of episodes. But South Park, I would put a crown on South Park for sure. I think they deserve it. They're still crushing out new seasons that are doing great. They're really well received. I've caught a couple of the new episodes, and they're just as good as they used to be.
No, yeah, they some people are saying they're on a decline.
Of course, they're probably on a decline.
Yeah, like it's been so long, but at the same time, they're commenting on current stuff.
Like and that's why they stay alive, because South Park is always relevant to what's going on. I think they did two COVID seasons. And then so a lot of people were really in. That was big, like when COVID was happening and everyone was locked in, and then there's new episodes of South Park about COVID. They hit a peak during then, a peak that they hadn't hit in a really long time. A lot of people came back to catch those episodes, and that will keep South Park up there for a while.
Sure. I mean, I think they do a great job at doing a kind of a commentary, and I think on the way kind of North American life, particularly American life goes, and I think they've done such a good job of just capturing like the absurdity of
that's what their thing is,
right? And that's of course that's not a new take. That's what they're known for. But now it must be getting hard for them to compete with real life because stuff's getting pretty insane.
Yeah, it's probably really daunting there for them to take on new social issues because you never know if the times are going to change and people are going to say enough is enough. But I think cartoons and same with like comics, like news, like old school comics, political comics. Like I think they should always have their place in pop culture. Yeah. You got to acknowledge the times that we live in and have fun with it and its humor. You got to be able to joke about yourself every once in a while, right? And South Park is a king of that.
Yeah, and it just gets you through it, right? It's easier to laugh at it, and I don't know. I don't like to put them on too much of a pedestal, but like I don't know. Sometimes I think when you can joke about something like that, it gets people to question things a
Yeah.
little easier and kind of realize some of the absurdity in things. I mean, I don't. At the end of the day, they're just trying to make people laugh. But I think the show really like occupies a cool space and like the
It does.
the
South Park is
animation.
cool.
And it really because Family Guy's like tampered with modern day commentary, but South Park can just do it a lot
Yeah.
better and just does a really good job at capturing the absurdity of everything, even better than Family Guy can, because Family Guy's always working a bit
Yeah.
behind. It's on that old school model, but yeah, we should give credit to South Park's turnaround too. 'Cause
Absolutely.
they're making episodes in a week.
Yeah, they jump on new topics like the week or 2 weeks after.
And that's hard to be on the ball like that for
Yeah.
20 years
Yeah.
and be coming up with jokes.
They do what they do well.
Like, and to be that opinionated, like, you got to have a strong opinion
Yeah.
about everything
Yeah.
to make jokes like that.
So hit me with your favorite adult cartoon of all time.
I'm going to do mine currently right now,
Okay.
right? Because it's something that's subject to change.
True.
And this is a show I watched for all the way through very recently. And I'm going to go with the Boondocks.
Nice.
I think it has like a nice tight run. I think it comes from a totally different cultural perspective
Yeah.
and a perspective that I don't think we get to see too much in adult cartoons. So not to get too philosophical about it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's cool and it just makes me laugh. And I think the animation style is really cool.
The Boondocks animation style is something like, as like an artist myself, someone who spends a lot of time drawing, the Boondocks art style inspires me. It's badass,
So
and it's different than a lot of the Western cartoons.
It
that we
feels like
have.
it takes a bit from Japan, right? Like
Of course. And I love the Boondocks for that. It feels mature. It's also relatable, and like it tells a story about family a lot. So all those elements hit close to home. But my favorite thing about it is its animation style, its art style. Inspires me to pick up the pencil again.
And I've really just dived into it, but I've watched it once through, and now I just kind of been watching it here and there, and I think I'm just gonna make it like a comfort show because
Yeah, it's a lot of people's comfort show.
And right now it's just the one I'm enjoying the most and like I appreciate the most right now. I think just out of respect, I should have mentioned The Simpsons for what it did, but that's
You were pretty tied up with Simpsons growing up.
But it's kind of beating a dead horse at this point. Like it's who hasn't said that it deserves its rightful place as the innovator. A lot of people have said it's not what it used to be. A lot of people say it's really only the first 7 seasons that are worth it. I disagree with that. I'd go a bit further than that. But it's fallen a bit. But I don't know. To me, it's been on like 30 years.
Yeah, it's time.
I feel like it's more. I feel like we should just Simpsons fan base is almost like this really cool little culture now. I'd rather just let them have their fun. I don't need.
The thing is, Simpsons is now in control by Disney.
Yeah.
So this recent May the 4th, they did an episode on Lisa in the Star Wars universe, and it's some short, and it's absurd. It's dumb. It's gone totally corporate now. So the best of The Simpsons is gone, but man, Simpsons deserves a crown also.
Big time.
But Boondocks is a great choice for number 1, and it's a great comfort show.
And it'll probably change, but right now that's just kind of the one I'm feeling the most, and it's kind of a new one for me that I'm excited about that I didn't give as much of a chance, and I really should have watched it earlier. So,
well, my number 1 adult cartoon right now, for the same reason as you, as something that's comforting, is Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, you've been really into that lately, and I
really
give it more
into
of a
Bob's
shot.
Burgers. It's a huge comfort show to me just because I love the characters. My favorite characters are Bob and his son Gene, just because. And the thing is with Bob's Burgers, each character has their own type of humor. So one of the daughters is just super dry and awkward, and one of the other daughters is really out there and outlandish and kind of has evil plans. And the son is just a dummy. So all of these characters have different types of humor, which can make it appeal to a lot of people. But my girlfriend introduced, well, that's a lie. I've been watching this show for the past like 4 years, but my girlfriend's obsessed with it. So she got me to take it more seriously, and it's become my comfort show. They're still crushing out new episodes every week on Disney Plus, and they hold up. They're good new episodes. A lot of these new episodes end up like becoming new favorites of mine. So they're on a high right now. They're pretty relevant right now.
And it doesn't get enough credit for how relevant Bob's Burgers is.
But I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's kind of like culty and whatnot with its following.
But like, here's the thing: people say that, right? And they say it about the Boondocks. They say it about whatever, like even Rick and Morty to an extent.
That kind of undermines how big of a fan base they do have.
Yeah, and okay, people will say, okay, The Simpsons is a bigger name. Family Guy is a bigger name. It's more recognizable. But I would say those shows are really going off the strength of past glories and the strength of the brand and how identifiable that is.
Yes.
And Family Guy has remained so popular off its old episodes and off I can go watch a clip of when Peter Griffin drank Red Bull for the first time. Yeah. Or, when...
Well, look, there's been a lot of Family Guy there's been a lot of Family Guy spin-offs that didn't land.
Yeah, so...
which kind of proves your point.
Yeah. But I mean, like, my point is like, okay, while Family Guy and Simpsons may have the stronger brand and maybe more popular as an entity overall... I would say, as on the merits of their episodes and the shows, Bob's Burgers is more popular now. It has to be. BoJack Horseman is more popular now. Yeah. That's the stuff from this era that's going to define our generation. Is not like we're not going to talk about. We'll talk about Family Guy. I don't know so much about The Simpsons. Yeah. But as being like a big part of it. But Simpsons is a very '90s thing to me, and if you weren't around then, it's kind of hard to understand the full impact of it.
Look, like we were at Comic-Con a couple months ago, and I saw a ton of Bob's Burgers stuff. Yeah. Not a lot of Simpsons and Family Guy stuff. I'd say Bob's Burger, from our lists, the two biggest ones currently is Rick and Morty and Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
The most relevant currently.
I would say even Bob's Burgers is bigger now than Rick and Morty.
Maybe. But is Bob's Burgers currently as big as Rick and Morty was?
No, it's never reached that kind of height, right? But like it's
cool to see how these shows dip and peak back up again. But yeah, that is probably my favorite adult cartoon. I might even say of all time. Like, it's really just something that feels like home to me. It's calm and it's funny, and I don't know. I like it. You guys should check out Bob's Burgers. It's probably like really. What's your like? Tell me why you haven't been able to really get into it.
It's just a more low key show. It doesn't come on as strong.
Yeah.
And if you're coming from the Family Guy school of thought or the South Park school of thought, that can take a bit too.
When I started watching Bob's Burgers, I was like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really understand. You can't decide if it's funny or not. But that's because you haven't become accustomed to the characters. Like any show, I guess. When you learn its characters, you kind of start to care more.
I feel like South Park and Family Guy, though, simplify sometimes the idea of, like, adult cartoons. They're kind of seen as, like, that. This is what they are now.
You can just drop in anywhere with Family Guy and South Park.
And it's just that punch you in the face kind of humor.
That's why those shows are more accessible.
Way more accessible. It's way more clearly funny. But Bob's Burgers is like it makes you, I don't want to say work a little bit. I guess you got to like acquire a taste for it to an extent.
You definitely do have to acquire a taste for it. And that's why I love when I start a show and I can't get into it and then I stop watching it. But then 6 months later, I try it again and it really gets me. I love when that happens. That happened with me in Game of Thrones. I couldn't get into it. And then once I did, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. So it was the same thing with Bob's Burgers for me. But I absolutely 100% get it and love it now. And no stuttering putting that at my number one because it's currently so close to home for me.
It's amazing. It's good. And it's
everybody should have that.
It's
right?
I think it'll only get bigger, too, over time. And its legend will grow. True. So, I mean... And I'm sure there's tons we forgot to mention. Futurama's one.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to do an honorable mentions.
We'll go rattle
as we
through 'em
close off
quickly.
the episode. Let's kind of rattle off a couple honorable mentions.
But like Futurama for me.
Futurama is a huge one. I don't know if it deserves a crown like the Trinity. Like, I think we can both agree the Trinity of adult cartoons is Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park.
Yeah,
That's
as far as like
probably
popularity.
the Trinity, the gods of adult animation. But I'd say Futurama is almost up there. Futurama is pretty iconic.
I think it's better than
It definitely could be.
two of those probably
I don't want to
overall.
put like it sound like I'm putting Futurama down, but I think Futurama.
It's a really consistent show, and it's more consistent
Okay.
than two of those shows.
Sure.
So, like, I would give it, I give it a ton of credit, and it's like it's a creative concept, and I like to see that Matt Groening went and tried something else outside of The Simpsons.
Yeah,
I respect
I like
that.
that.
That's had a bit of success. Seth MacFarlane has tried to do it a bit. I like American Dad, FYI too. That's
If I had to pick up a new if I had to either pick up Simpsons or Futurama, I'd rather pick up Futurama.
yeah, pick up. Well, it's getting more digestible than The Simpsons.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. There's more substance there. I don't want to make
And
it.
The Simpsons is hard to watch in those early seasons. The animation is totally different. It's a
South
lot
Park
slower.
suffers from the same thing.
Yeah, and it's
But-
a grind.
South Park is almost funny because the animation's so off in those first couple seasons.
But it's a grind. That's one of the daunting things with some of the older shows. Those
Yeah.
first two seasons, like I guess they're just a bit too old, and I don't know, just a bit of a grind. And there's not really a clear apparent time. Like you can't pinpoint an episode where the
Yeah.
show changed. You just kind of slowly notice it gradually until one day you're like, oh, this is like hilarious.
But we have to at least acknowledge Family Guy Star Wars.
Oh, that's classic.
How did they do that so well?
They did it.
I
That's
really
one of the
still
best
don't
things
get
they've
it.
ever done. And if it's out of all,
I think I rewatched the three Family Guy Star Warses. I think I rewatch them every year.
out of all the corporate decisions Star Wars has made, like sellout
That's one of the
decisions, that's by
best
far the
ones.
best one. That's better than like, oh my
A
god.
lot of people say the Family Guy. People who don't like Star Wars say the Family Guy Star Wars are way better than the actual Star Wars movies. I love some of them. I love the Family Guy Star Wars movies.
It's classic, right?
They're awesome. They're genius. They poke fun at Star Wars in a playful way that fans of Star Wars will like. And the way they integrate Family Guy characters into the Star Wars universe, like seeing Meg as the trash monster, it's just perfect. If you haven't seen it, waiting to see which character will be what.
Or they're coming out of the trash chute and it's like, we gotta take this
The
couch.
couch.
It's just sitting
They
there.
gotta take the couch.
they're
They
moving.
fly off into space and he's hanging out the ship, but they don't care.
No,
it's
they-
just the point of the joke.
If I want to do other honorable mentions, I'm looking at a few here. Like,
Let me see.
F is for Family. Bill Burr's show I wouldn't put that as a top tier, but it's pretty good. It's fun. I do love King of the Hill. Some of the best politically incorrect humor is on King of the Hill. It's very dry.
hear Archer is fantastic.
Archer is pretty fantastic. I haven't seen a ton of it.
Gravity Falls.
See, but like I don't know if I include that. I like keeping that for children. I like that it's a bit dark and a bit serious, but it still has this whimsy to me that
So
appeals
yeah,
to
it's a
kids.
show that premiered on Disney XD, so it's obviously marketed for kids towards kids, but it did not age that way.
I discovered that in the best way.
Yeah, how?
Because I was done with Disney, anything Disney
Yeah,
related,
yeah.
channel related. By that time, not Disney.
This is our closing statement. by
not
the way.
Disney movies yet, but because this is pre, Star Wars debacle, I think, right? But anyway, I was done with like Disney TV shows, so I wasn't really watching anymore. But my sister still was, and every now and then you'd catch an episode, and this is when we still sharing a TV.
Yeah.
By the way, those horrible times, right? The dark ages. Okay. And every now and then, these episodes of this weird show, Gravity Falls, would play.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, this show's like interesting.
Yeah,
And then,
it was on for me in passing.
Yeah.
So I do get what you're saying.
And then one day, I just decided to watch the whole thing from start to finish, and yeah, it's an amazing.
Gravity Falls is
show.
cool, and it's one of those Disney shows that did a good job being different.
Should have been way more popular in its time. Yeah,
Should've.
it's a children's show with a deep lore, crazy world building,
Yeah,
all these
exactly.
characters, mystery.
A lot of work goes in. It's important to recognize something when a lot of work goes into it.
Yeah, and 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 in a lot of ways, even though we prefer some of these shows, I guess overall it's a step above like Family Guy. And I mean the time put in to the developing the world and the story, and like I said, the lore is on
weird.
a different level.
It's Gravity Falls is just kind of weird.
'em.
No, we shouldn't.
And that's a testament to adult animation, because Gravity Falls, if you count it as that, and Family Guy are somehow put in the same category.
All these shows, no matter, like, forget the order that we put them in. All these shows we talked about all do something different excellently.
Yeah, completely.
Excellently.
Completely different.
All these shows are kings at doing what they do.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. I'm trying to think of a genre that has more. It's like we shouldn't even be a genre. It's literally
I do
just
want
the
to do
fact
an
that they're
episode talking
animated.
about kids cartoons too.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some kids cartoons I love a lot more than some of these adult
of course,
cartoons.
right? And I just want to mention a couple more, like Ren
Yeah.
and Stimpy show does a lot of great ones. Samurai Jack, of course, is very well done. I do like American Dad, even though it's a Family Guy clone. I think it's done very well. I don't know if I'd put any of these that I just mentioned at the top. Big Mouth we should shout out, because that's a new one that's kind of paving the way. I don't like it.
I don't really
personally.
like it either. I don't watch it
I
anymore.
hate the animation. It's disgusting.
It's weird.
And I'm
It's
not saying it's
supposed
bad.
to be
It just doesn't
it's
look good to
supposed
me.
to be
It's supposed,
disgusting,
yeah,
though.
but it's not appealing. And
Yeah.
part of animation to me, I like it to be like pleasant
True.
to look at, somewhat pleasant to look at. Even though I watch South Park, somehow South Park is more pleasant to look at than
I always
Big
felt
Mouth.
weird watching Big Mouth. They make you be like I don't like.
No, and they
yeah.
use the sex stuff as a crutch, and it's just too much.
You know what? Yeah, you're right.
I guess we're prudes,
and then they
but it's too
embrace that using it as a crutch and go even further.
But it's just too much for the shock, and it's gross, and it's just like
The
but to
first
point,
season
it's
wasn't
tedious.
bad. Like, everyone has had experiences growing up, being a teenager, going through puberty, and the first season is good at that. But I don't think there's anything worth watching after the first season. The first season might not even be worth it for you, because I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
But a lot of people enjoy it. I believe it was just renewed for another season.
Oh yeah, it'll go for
These days, shows get canceled like nothing. So to have something renewed only proves the point
Yeah,
that...
but we know why Big Mouth did well. If it wasn't this
Yeah.
big sex gross out show,
Yeah, because like Netflix did another show called Disenchantment on there, which I also caught a couple episodes of, and that's a show that's far better than Big Mouth and should get more
that's not
attention than it. But yeah, that was a fun one.
yeah, not to end on such a bum note.
Damn
but,
it.
But yeah, man, like there's plenty of adult cartoons that's great as far as a category. It's one of the best, one of the most varied, and yeah, go check out some adult cartoons.
Yeah, a lot of these are available on subscription services you probably already have. BoJack Horseman is Netflix. Bob's Burgers is Disney Plus. Family Guy is Disney Plus. So is Simpsons. A lot of these are on Disney Plus.
Any of like the biggest 10 or biggest 5 you're gonna be able to find pretty easily.
You'll find all these easily, so just throw them on if you're studying or doing some work or whatnot. Cartoons, I think, is the best background thing to throw on your TV. Everyone has that thing, and
it's like and some of them are the best social shows you can like watch with people.
if you got a couple friends hanging over, these are probably the shows you'd want to throw up for.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, like I said, I do kind of want to talk about kiddie cartoons.
We'll probably do more episodes talking about cartoons, because
We'll do another cartoon.
Probably forgot to mention even today. So
yeah, for sure. So hope you guys enjoyed that episode, and we'll catch you next week on The Slime.
bye.
Take it easy, guys.